last lecture, we have seen the syllabus for the subject of heat transfer. In the syllabus, the first unit, the first part is to identify the modes of heat transfer and understand the governing equations for the same. So, in this lecture, we are going to talk about the different modes of heat transfer. It will be introduction initially, then we'll talk about the applications, then the modes like conduction, convection, and radiation, and then some numericals based on the basic laws. Myself Nitin L. Birud, already I introduced. In the chapter, we are going to learn what is heat transfer and what are the applications, how the heat is getting transferred, and what are the governing equations and laws for the different modes of heat transfer. Heat and heat transfer. So, thermal energy in the is a form of energy created by motion of atoms and molecules. The thermal energy is associated with translation, rotation, and vibration of the and electronic states of the atoms. So, that is what is called as thermal energy. It is generated because of the translation, rotation, and vibrations of the atoms. It represents the cumulative effect of microscopic activities and is directly linked to the temperature of the matter. So, when we are saying that higher temperature means higher thermal energy stored, lower temperature means lower thermal energy stored. So, thermal energy storage can be measured in the terms of temperature. Heat is a thermal energy in transition. Transition means when it is crossing the boundaries of the system. And why it is crossing the boundaries of the system? It is because of the presence of the temperature difference. So whenever there is a temperature difference in between a system and a surrounding or in between system itself, then because of the difference in the temperature, thermal energy will transfer from one place to the another place in order to achieve a thermal equilibrium, and that transfer is termed as heat transfer. Okay, so a must condition is whenever there is a temperature difference, whenever there is a difference in the temperature, heat transfer must be there by any mode of heat transfer, but it is going to be there. So already you have studied about thermodynamics in the last year. What is the difference in thermodynamics and heat transfer? Both the thermodynamics is also study of heat, heat transfer is also study of heat. So what is the difference basically in these two syllabus or two subjects? Thermodynamics tells us about how much heat is transferred, the amount, how much work is done. Once again, the amount, how much work is done by the system on the system, and what is the final status of the system after completion of that particular process. So how much heat is transferred, okay, that is the information what we are getting after the analysis of thermodynamics. Whereas on the other side, when you are trying to achieve heat transfer, how the heat transfer is achieved, by which mode. See here, how much, here it is only how much is thermodynamics, how means by which mode is heat transfer, and at what rate. Amount is obtained here, but at what rate it is getting transferred with respect to time, and how the temperature variation is there inside the body during that heat transfer process. So all these answers, that how, what rate, and what is going to be the temperature difference, all these answers we are going to get through the study of this subject called as heat transfer. Basically, heat transfer and thermodynamics are complementing each other. Thermodynamics is giving us how much heat is transferred, heat transfer is giving at what rate and by which mode it is getting transferred. So information obtained in thermodynamic analysis is useful for heat transfer analysis. Information obtained for from heat transfer analysis is equally valuable for a thermodynamics analysis. So that's why they're said to be complementing each other. Then let us see some example of heat transfer. Heat always move from warmer place to the cooler place, that is higher temperature to lower temperature. Hot objects in a cooler room will cool to the room temperature. This is your general observation. Cold objects in a warmer room will heat up to the room temperature. This is another general observation. This is happening because of the process of heat transfer. So, see, there are some common examples. That is, hot water is getting boiled into this pot, then the hot air is rising up. It is replacing by the cold air because of the movement of the density difference which is created by the temperature difference. And what is this is a picture of a refrigerator. We are keeping the items which are to be cooled in the refrigerator, and because of the density difference there is flow of the air within the refrigerator, which is creating the cooling effect. So this is because of the heat transfer. So where this heat transfer is used, what are the applications? There are many applications, many areas. Almost all the areas are covered under this subject heat transfer. Let us see it. So you can see this is the tree which is showing the application areas like say transportation, then electronics, household applications, then environmental applications, farm and fishery applications, energy sectors, and industry. So if you summarize all these applications in a common thing, you can find that energy heat transfer is used in energy production systems like steam power plant, solar energy convergence. It is used in refrigeration and conditioning because of the use of condensers and evaporators, wherein the heat transfer is taking place. And in the domestic appliances like oven, stove, toasters, heat transfer is there. Cooling of electronic equipments, very major application nowadays because of we are residing in the age in which electronic equipments are being used. Civil engineering applications like cooling of the cement, concrete. Manufacturing like welding processes, heat treatment processes, casting processes. Automobile sectors, aircraft designs, nature because of the pressure differences which are created because of the temperature difference. Wind are blowing and we are using that wind as a wind energy. So in natural systems also a lot of applications are there where heat transfer is being used. What are the modes of heat transfer? Modes are three: conduction, which is governed by Fourier's law of conduction; convection, which is governed by Newton's law of cooling; and radiation, which is governed by Stephen Boltzmann's law of radiation. So let us see one by one all these modes and the different laws. So what are the modes of heat transfer? First is conduction as usual. Where it occurs? It occurs when the temperature gradient or temperature difference exceeds in a solid or a stationary fluid. So whenever we are having a solid and a fluid which is non-moving, maybe a liquid or maybe a gas, a non-moving means the molecules are fixed, they are not moving much from their original position, so stationary I can say, and there is a solid. So heat transfer through the solid or a stationary fluid is because of the conduction heat transfer. Then convection heat transfer occurs within a moving fluid. You might have noticed the difference that conduction occurs through stationary fluid, convection occurs within a moving fluid, or between a solid surface or a moving fluid, of course, when there is temperature difference. And radiation can occur anywhere because radiations are emitted by the surfaces at all the temperature except 0 Kelvin. So radiation is always present, and heat transfer between the two surfaces when they are not in contact, often in presence of vacuum, often in absence of any intervening media, the radiations are traveling from one surface to the other surface and the heat transfer is taking place because of the thermal radiation. So these are the three modes and where they are occurring. Then this is a picture which is showing you a clear cut picture, clear cut applications of this. Here you can see the material through which conduction is taking place. We are receiving the radiation without any intervening media, and convection there is a fluid motion which is shown here. Fluid motion is essential for convection, a material is essential for conduction, and nothing is required for radiations to travel. They can travel through vacuum also. So these three important aspects we need to remember, and we need to focus on these three things. Now let us discuss more about conduction. Conduction can occur by three different mechanisms through three different types of materials. Let us see what are those. Energy transfer across the system boundary due to the temperature difference is because of collision between the molecules. Means when the molecules are colliding with each other, And if because of the collision of the molecules the heat is getting transferred or energy getting transferred, particularly it is happening in the fluids, lattice waves, that is the vibrations which are created because of the temperature difference, and lattice waves are induced in the atoms, and this particular thing happens particularly in the non-metallic solids. So whenever we are having non-metallic solids, the energy transfer through these solids is taking place because of the lattice waves, and that is called as conduction. And translation motion of the free electrons, in case of metals there may be presence of the free electrons, and the free electrons can move from their position because of their temperatures, and like the electricity flow, heat transfer, heat can also flow because of the presence of the free electrons. So it is happening in the metallic solid. So there are three different mechanisms. One is collision between the molecules and atoms, which is applicable to the fluids, liquids, gases. Then lattice waves, non-metallic solids, and free electron movement in the metallic solid. So this is how the conduction occurs in practice. Conduction needs matter and does not require any bulk motion of the matter. So if the matter is non-moving, then conduction is going to happen through it. But one important aspect is conduction needs some material to transfer, and these are the different three mechanisms by which the conduction can occur through solids, liquids, and gases. Now let us see the first conduction via free electrons, which is occurring in the metals. This conduction heat transfer mechanism observed primarily in metallic solids. The concentration of free electrons varies considerably for metallic alloy and is very low for non-metals. So non-metals are not having the free electrons. The metallic alloys are also having less number of free electrons, but the pure metals are having more number of free electrons. That's why through the pure metals, the mechanism of conduction is always movement of these free electrons. In the previous statement implies that the ability of the solids to conduct the heat via this mechanism varies directly with the free electron concentration. Means more the number of free electrons, more is going to be the rate of heat transfer through that. So pure metals are conducting the heat at faster rate. So those which are pure metals, which are good conductors of heat, they are always good conductors of electricity, because the mechanism of heat transfer is same for the mechanism of electrical current flow through the pure metals. I am talking only about pure metals or metals, I can say. The conduction mechanism also relies on the existence of temperature gradient. Now, this is of course applicable to all the modes. This is not new thing. So conduction via free electrons. The outer electrons of the metal atoms drift like the flow of electricity, and they are free to move. When the metal is heated, these free electrons gains kinetic energy and transfer it throughout the metal. Means actual physical motion of the free electron occurs like the electricity. Insulators such as wood and plastics do not have this free electron, and that's why they cannot conduct the heat as good as the metals. So this is the free electrons you can see. Because of the heating of these things, the free electrons can move from one place to the other place carrying the energy with them. Then in case of non-metallic solids, as I told you, that the conduction is taking place because of the lattice vibration. So how these lattice vibrations are developed, let us see. The atoms in a material are connected. Here you can see the example is taken in the form of say spring. So this spring represents the connection between the two atoms. So what is happening? So this is a network of atoms. Atoms in a solid constantly vibrating at very high frequencies and with relatively small amplitude. The frequencies are high, the small amplitudes are less. Now, when this vibration is because of the temperature, so the vibrations are going to be in the hot side. So hot side atoms are going to vibrate violently, and these atomic vibrations adjacent atoms are coupled through the atomic bonding. So whatever vibrations are there, as they are coupled with the adjoining layers, the heat that vibrations are going to get transferred from one atom layers to the second layer, likewise third layer, likewise fourth layer, and this is what is called as the transfer of heat because of the lattice vibrations. So the whole structure will start vibrating, means in other words I can say the heat is getting transferred. So these vibrations are coordinated in such a way that the traveling of lattice waves are produced, and this is what is called as heat transfer by conduction in non-metallic solids. Now, conduction by the random motion of molecules or particles in case of the fluids, as I told you, that you can see the hot particle and the cold particles. Hot particle can is having some energy with it, so it can give that energy when it collides with the other molecule, like say collision is there, and we could do collision, the energy which is possessed by this hot molecule will be partially given to the cold molecules, and this is how the exchange of heat occurs, and that is conduction. And both the particles sharing the energy will become warm. So hot particle has reduced its energy content, cold particle has got more energy content, and now they are free to move, and they will travel in the medium, and they will exchange the energy further to the different other molecules. So what we have seen is conduction can occur because of three modes, three mechanisms I can say. In the metals, it is because of the motion of free electrons. In the non-metallic solids, it is because of the lattice vibrations, and in case of the gases and liquid, that is in case of fluids, it is because of the random motion of the particles. The conduction occurs. There is a very important fun fact we can see. You might have touched wood and a metal. So if you touch them, you might have seen that the metal feels cooler compared to wood. This is happening if you touch right now also to some metallic component and to wood component. You'll find that the metal will feel colder as compared to wood, and this is not this is despite of the fact that both are at same temperature, because they are say lying in the same room, and that's why their temperatures are going to be same. But why we are feeling it? Because the metal is a good conductor of heat, and when we are touching the metal, metal conducts the heat away from our hands at a faster rate, and that's why we feel it, that it is colder, while comparatively slower heat transfer occurs from the wood to our hands, and that's why it feels warmer than the metal. So this is very important thing which you might have noticed. The conduction process is entirely governed by the law called as Fourier's law of heat conduction. Now, how it occurs? If you just see that the rate of heat transfer through a wall, suppose we have considered a simple wall of thickness L, and the temperatures of the both sides of the wall are maintained at say higher temperature on this side and lower temperature on this side, and of course because of the temperature difference, heat transfer is going to be there. Now the heat transfer rate is going to increase. This is very logical, so let us try to find out what is the logic. When the temperature difference in the left and right side increases, the heat transfer rate is going to be increased. Obvious, because higher temperature difference, more potential for the heat to flow, and more heat transfer rate is obviously is going to be achieved. Second is the wall surface area increases. More area, more scope for the heat to transfer. That's why the rate of heat transfer is going to be more. The wall thickness reduces. So when we are saying that the this wall instead of thickness say L, if you reduce it say L by 2, obviously because of that reduction, the heat transfer rate is going to be reduced. So it means that the heat transfer rate is proportional to temperature difference, proportional to surface area, and inversely proportional to the thickness of the wall. And if the wall is changed from brick to aluminum, means if you are changing it from a low conductivity material to a high conductivity material, then the obvious effect will be increase in the heat transfer rate. And if you measure the temperature of the wall from left and right and plot the temperature variation with the wall thickness, we may get a graph like this. So if you measure this, and if you apply all these whatever things we have studied this, and if you combine all these things together, we can say that heat transfer rate in x direction, here x stands for the direction, is proportional to the temperature difference, proportional to area, proportional to one important property of that material called as thermal conductivity, and inversely proportional to the thickness of the wall. So if we combine all these together, you will get a simple equation that minus Ka delta T upon L, where K is the thermal conductivity, A is the area, delta T is the difference in the temperature of the two sides of the wall, and L is the thickness of the wall. You may ask me why this negative sign is there. Let us see it in the next slide. This is called as Fourier's law of conduction. Now, if you write it in terms of a statement, we can say that heat flux due to conduction is directly proportional to the temperature gradient in the direction of heat flow. Heat flux, where heat flux means the rate of heat transfer per unit surface area. That is what is called as heat flux. And heat flux because of conduction is directly proportional to temperature gradient in the direction of heat flow. Now, what is this? In a differential form, we can write it in this fashion. Q is equal to minus Ka dt by dx. Okay, if you notice in the previous slide, we have written it delta T upon L. But this delta T upon L is a absolute form. We are interested, we say this is a wall for which it may be true. But if the shape of the wall is different, then we cannot apply this equation directly to that. So we need to have some differential form of the equation, and instead of that, what we are doing, we are putting it in a differential form. So delta t will become dt, and L will become dx. That is the uh, parameter which will represent the space coordinate of that system, or the thickness of the system in this case. And that entire term, that is delta t upon delta x, will become dt upon dx. Okay, and this dt upon dx is a differential temperature gradient, and heat transfer rate is, or heat flux, that is heat transfer rate per unit area q upon a, is proportional to this temperature gradient. This is the basic statement of Fourier's law of conduction. So if you remove that proportionality constant, we will get an equation q is equal to minus ka dt by dx, where k is a constant of proportionality known as the thermal conductivity of the material. Okay, and the unit of this term is watt per meter Kelvin. A is the cross sectional area, that is area perpendicular to the direction of heat flow in meter square. T is the temperature difference, and that can be either in Kelvin or in degree Celsius, because both cases the absolute values, are the values are going to remain same, because it is a difference. And x stands for the heat transfer flow path, that is the direction. So dt by dx represents the temperature gradient in x direction. And why the negative sign is there? Negative sign denotes that the heat transfer is always in the direction of decreasing temperature. Means whenever heat transfer is there, always the value of this dt by dx is going to be negative. And in order to convert this negative into positive, we are putting an additional negative sign in the equation. So this negative value multiplied by this negative sign, entire term will become positive, because heat transfer rate is always a positive term. Okay, so this is why the negative sign is introduced by Fourier's. Now we'll talk very briefly about thermal conductivity. Thermal conductivity is the what you call constant of proportionality. I have said already in the thermal Fourier's law of conduction. So K is the coefficient of thermal conductivity, or often called as only simply thermal conductivity. K is a thermodynamic property of the material, like temperature, pressure, volume. It is a property, and it is a thermodynamic property. So it is like specific heat or the density, like that. It is a thermal, depends on the temperature. And that's why the unit is watt per meter Kelvin or watt per meter degree Celsius. As I told you, Kelvin or degree Celsius, that doesn't matter, because it is for the temperature difference. In case of solids, heat transfer is by phonons, that is called as lattice vibration waves, or and because of the electrons. In case of the metallics, the thermal conductivity of the material is defined by combined contribution of these two mechanisms, like KL plus Ke. That is, K is the component of the thermal conductivity, which is because of the lattice vibration, and in case of uh, electronic, or the moment of electrons, Ke is the component of the conductivity which is standing for electronic component. So if you add the component of Kl plus Ke, you will get the total thermal conductivity of the material. So in case of non-metals, this Kl is going to be higher and Ke is going to be very small, can be ignored. In case of metals, Ke is higher and Kl is very small, and that's why it is normally ignored, where Kl and Ke are the lattice and electronic thermal conductivities. The electron contribution is dominant in metals and absent in insulators. And these are the values of some thermal conductivities of the different materials. I can see that at the top is diamond. then followed by silver, copper, gold, and all the other things. We are going to discuss about the conductivity in more details in a separate lecture afterwards. Convection, as I told you, that the second mode of heat transfer is convection. It is, before we start convection, let us once again go back to the basic of convection. That convection occurs through moving fluids, or in between a surface and a fluid moving past the surface or across the surface. So that what you need to remember before we start to discuss about convection. Energy transfer across the system boundary due to the temperature difference by the combined mechanism of intermolecular interaction and bulk transport. That is, some intermolecular interaction means, in other words, I can say conduction and the movement of the molecule. So both the things are involved when we are talking about convection. Convection involves conduction. Why? That we are going to discuss when we will actually learn the convection process in detail. Right now, just remember that convection occurs because of the combined mechanism of intermolecular interaction and bulk transport. Convection needs the fluid matter. Actually, convection occurs through the fluids. Convection cannot occur through the solids because the molecules of the solids are non-moving. They are fixed in their position, so there is no question of any convection through the solids. Convection can occur only through fluids, that is gases and liquids. And you can see that a fluid is moving past this surface. There is a flat plate, and the temperature of the flat plate is maintained at temperature Ts. The fluid is moving and the fluid temperature is say T infinity, and if there is difference in these two temperature, some heat is going to transfer from the fluid to the surface or from the surface to the fluid, depending upon which temperature is higher. This Q double dash shows the convective heat flux, that is the convective rate of heat transfer per unit surface area. So energy transferred because of diffusion, that is conduction, plus the bulk motion of the fluid. Once again, I am telling you that why this diffusion and bulk fluid of motion is responsible for convection. We'll see the details when we talk actually the convection units, that is unit number 4. The fluid motion is taking place because of the temperature difference. Already I have mentioned it, that cooler fluid with more density, and it will try to move in the downward direction under the action of gravity, and the warmer fluids or gases will tend to rise up because of their lower densities. Okay, so this is applicable for the convection. Convection needs the fluid motion, and the fluid motion is because of the temperature difference. That only what conclusion we can draw from this. Convection is governed by Newton's law of cooling. Newton's law of cooling is stated as heat flux due to convection is directly proportional to the temperature difference between the surface and the fluid in contact with the surface. So convection heat flux, that is the rate of heat transfer per unit surface area, is proportional to the difference in the temperature between the temperature difference, surface and the fluid. And uh, it is written in this fashion, that Q is equal to H into AS into delta T. So where Q upon AS is a heat flux, I have taken it separately. So Q into AS, or I can say here from this equation I can say that Q is directly proportional to the surface area. Q is also directly proportional to temperature difference, and there is a constant of proportionality here, and this constant of proportionality is called as heat transfer coefficient or convective heat transfer coefficient, and it is denoted by H, where Q is the heat flow in watt, H is the heat transfer coefficient, which is not a thermodynamic property like the thermal conductivity which are seen in Fourier's law of conduction, but it may depend on the geometry of the surface, very important, flow characteristics, thermodynamic properties, etc. So right now we are not going to discuss much about this heat transfer coefficient. We'll discuss it in the unit number 4 in much more details. Right now what you need to remember is simply this equation and how we can find out the rate of heat transfer by convection using a very simple equation, where H stands for heat transfer coefficient, A stands for the surface area, and this delta T is the difference in the temperature of surface and the fluid. So this is shown in the slide. Now, what are the types of convection and what are their relative values of heat transfer coefficient? Very quickly, I'm going to take a look at all these things. Uh, Types of convections are free convection and natural convection, that is, or natural convection, that is, the fluid movement is taking place because of the buoyancy forces, that is natural force. Normally the movement is slow, and that's why the heat transfer coefficient is also slow, and that's why you can see that the values are from 2 to 25 for gases, and for liquids are 50 to 100. Just one thing you have to remember here is heat transfer rate by convection is directly proportional to heat transfer coefficient. Higher the value H, higher is going to be the rate of heat transfer by convection. Remember it very clearly. Then second is force convection. If you are achieving the fluid motion because of some external means like fan, tube, pump, or something blower like that, then that is called as force convection. And obviously, as the fluid is moving at faster rate, the heat transfer rates are more, and that's why the heat transfer coefficients are also higher. Then there are some special cases like this free or natural convection both can occur with phase change, that is change of phase from liquid to gas or gas to liquid, that is called as boiling or condensation. So there is boiling heat transfer and condensation heat transfer. The heat transfer coefficient in boiling and condensation heat transfers are very high, ranging from 2500 to 1 lakh. We are going to discuss about boiling and condensation separately in unit number 6. Then the third mode of heat transfer, that is radiation. How the heat energy from the sun reaches to the earth. Simply we know that there are no particles in between sun and earth, and that's why it is not going to be traveling because of conduction or convection. Then why it is traveling? It is traveling because of the electromagnetic radiations, and these electromagnetic radiations, a particular bandwidth of electromagnetic radiation is called as thermal radiations, and these thermal radiations are responsible for the heat transfer. In this, we are going to discuss about very detailed analysis of the radiations in unit number 5. So thermal radiations are in the form of electromagnetic radiations, and they are arising because of the temperature of the body. Radiation does not require any medium to pass through it, and that's why it is going to the fastest mode of heat transfer, because the radiations are traveling with the speed of light. It is the only mode of in the only form of thermal energy where the energy can travel through the vacuum. It uses electromagnetic photons, means of transportation which travels at the speed of light. Thermal radiations is emitted by any matter with the temperature above 0 Kelvin. Already I told you. The electromagnetic spectrum classifies radiation according to the wavelength of the radiation. This we are going to discuss in unit number 5. Main types of radiations are gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet rays, visible rays, infrared rays, radio waves, and the mixture of some visible light, infrared, and UV radiation is our thermal radiations. Radiation with shorter wavelengths are more energetic and contains more thermal energy. Radiations Radioactive transfer occurs when emitted region strikes the another body and it is absorbed by that same body. And Stephen Boltzmann has proposed a law which is considered as the basic law of all the radiation heat transfer. And that radiation law is very simple, that emissive power, that is the energy emitted by the surface per unit surface area, that is what is called as energy, sorry, emissive power. Emissive power of a black surface is directly proportional to the fourth power of its absolute temperature. If a surface is black, black means by nature it is black, not by color. Black means a surface which can absorb all the energy incident upon it. So if such surface is present, then the energy emitted by such surface is going to be proportional to the fourth power of its absolute temperature, where absolute temperature means temperature expressed in unit Kelvin, not in degrees Celsius. So this is the statement, that is the emissive power of a black surface is proportional to the fourth power of absolute temperature. And if you remove the proportionality constant, you will get emissive power of a black surface is equal to sigma into T to the power of Ts raised to power 4, where sigma is Stephen Boltzmann constant, whose value is 5.67 into 10 to the power minus 8 watt per meter square Kelvin raised to power 4. You can see this. Stephen Boltzmann constant. And for real surface, this is for black surface. For real surface, we can add one more variable into this, and this epsilon is the emissivity of the surface. okay, which is a property of that surface, and emissivity is one for a black surface. So what we got is for any real surface, we can find out the emissive power or energy emitted by the surface in the simplest possible form using this simple equation: sigma epsilon Ts raised to power 4, sigma Stefan Boltzmann constant, epsilon the emissivity. So what we need is the value of emissivity of that surface. Then if you expand it for two bodies, this was for a single body. Now if you expand it, you'll get a simple equation that the rate radiation heat exchange between the small surface and a large surrounding is given by the expression Q. Now the radiative heat transfer is epsilon sigma A in bracket Ts raised to power 4 minus T surrounding raised to power 4, where Ts is the temperature of the surface which is emitting the radiations, and T surrounding is the temperature of the surrounding surface, which is a large surrounding surface and which is absorbing all the radiation. So what is the net radiation heat exchange between a small surface and a very large surface? It is given by epsilon sigma As into Ts raised to power 4 minus T surrounding raised to power 4. These are the things in this equation. Now, if you summarize the three modes of heat transfer, you got three modes. Conduction is because of the diffusion of energy into random molecular motion because of free electrons and because of the lattice vibrations, and it is equation is heat flux is given by minus k into dt by dx. Convection, it is energy diffusion due to random molecular motion plus energy transfer due to bulk motion, and it is given by the heat flux is given by q h into ts minus t infinity, and radiation is energy transfer by electromagnetic waves, and the heat flux is given by epsilon sigma into ts raised to power 4. So these are the three equations and the three different modes of heat transfer. We are going to talk about each mode in more details in the subsequent lectures. Right now we are just having a small introduction. Now let us try to find out some numerical examples, and with the help of the numerical examples how to use these equations, let us see. So we are having a first example. That example is a 2 meter long, 0.3 centimeter diameter electrical wire is extend across a room at 15 degrees Celsius in a given schematic. So let us see the schematic. Yes. So this is the schematic. The temperature of the wire is 152 degrees Celsius. The temperature of the fluid where it is exposed, it is 15 degrees Celsius. Some 1.5 ampere current is flowing through the wire, and 60 volt is the potential difference. So because of this voltage and current, some heat is going to get generated. Whatever is the rate of heat generation under steady conditions, we need to say that whatever energy generated is there, that energy transfer is going to happen from this wire to the surrounding, and as there is hot surface is contact with the fluid, the mechanism or the mode of heat transfer is going to be convection. And what we are supposed to calculate? Disregarding any heat transfer by radiation. So we need to disregard the radiation, determine the convection heat transfer coefficient for the heat transfer between the outer surface of the wire and the air in the room. So we have to find out the value of H. Simple. So wire dimensions are known, the temperatures are known, voltage drop and electric current through the wire is known, and we have to find out the convective transfer between the outer surface and the wire and the air of the room. So what assumptions we can have? We can have steady operating conditions and radiation heat transfer is negligible. So if you apply all these assumptions and carry out the analysis, it will be like this. Under steady conditions, the rate of heat loss from the wire is equal to the rate of heat generation. Already I told you that whatever amount of energy which is getting generated, the same amount of energy has to be transferred in order to maintain the temperature at some steady values. So that is what is called a steady condition. So under steady condition, I can simply say that energy transfer, that is heat transfer, is equal to heat generated, and heat generated is equal to voltage into current. It is an electrical resistance circuit. So voltage into current is amount of heat generated, and that is 90 watt. So rate of heat transfer in this case is 90 watt. Now what is the mode of heat transfer? It is convection. So if you apply the convection, before that we'll calculate the surface area. The surface area is pi dl, and it is 0.01885 meters square. And if you apply the Newton's law of cooling, that is the rate governing equation for the process of convection, that Q is equal to H into A into Ts minus T infinity. Q is known to us. Area of surface is already calculated. Surface temperature is known. Fluid temperature is known. So only unknown is the heat transfer coefficient. So if you disregarding radiations, if you put all the values in this equation, you can find out the value of H as Q divided by A into Ts minus T infinity. Putting the values, you find that it is 34.9 watt per meter square degree Celsius. This is an illustrative example for finding out the heat transfer rate by convection. Let us go for another example. In this example too, there is a hot combustion gases of a furnace are separated from the ambient air and surrounding, which are at 25 degrees Celsius. So ambient temperature is 25 degrees Celsius, and there is a brick which is in between the combustion gases and the atmosphere, and that brick is of 0.15 meter thickness. The brick has got the thermal conductivity of 1.2 watt per meter square. Under steady conditions, the outer surface temperature of the brick is measured to be 100 degrees Celsius, and free convection heat transfer to the adjoining from the air to the adjoining surface is characterized by convection coefficient of 20 watt per meter square Kelvin. What is the brick inner surface temperature? Neglect any heat transfer by radiation. Let us see the picture first, and I'll tell you more about that. This is a brick. Okay, this side of the this side of the brick, there are some combustion gases, and the brick has got thermal conductivity of 1.2 watt per meter Kelvin. So through this brick, some conduction is going to take place, and the heat is getting transferred by conduction through the brick. Now at the outer surface of the brick will reach to certain temperature. In this case, it is given at 100 degrees Celsius. So now this surface T2, outer surface, which is at temperature T2, that is 100 degrees Celsius, is going to release the energy, going to lose the energy because of convection, and it is losing it to an environment having temperature 25 degrees Celsius, and heat transfer coefficient is given equal to 20 watt per meter square Kelvin. Now under this situation, if we apply the steady condition, in the steady condition, the heat flux by conduction through the wall must be equal to heat flux by convection at the outer surface. So knowing all the dimensions, we can simplify this equation in this simplify this problem in this fashion by using these assumptions like steady state conduction, one dimensional heat transfer, and radiation heat transfer is neglected. So using these assumptions, the inside surface temperature may be obtained by performing the energy balance at the outer surface, that is under steady condition, the heat flux by conduction is equal to heat flux by convection. So energy coming in is equal to energy going out. In other words, the heat flux by conduction is equal to heat flux by convection. So heat flux of conduction minus heat flux of convection is always equal to 0 under steady conditions, of course, for this particular one. So if you put the values, the heat flux by conduction is given by Fourier's law of conduction, that is K T1 minus T2 divided by L. Heat flux by convection is given by Newton's law of cooling, that is H into T2 minus T infinity, surface temperature minus fluid temperature. So if you put the values in this equation, the only unknown is the value of T1, and that T1 can be calculated as 287.5. So this is another example which gives us the idea about use of the conduction and convection governing equation. So what we have learned this equation in this particular chapter or particular lecture is what is heat transfer and what are their applications, what are the different modes of heat transfer, and what are the governing equation for that. And we have seen two examples in order to give us more idea about the governing equation. Thank you. We'll continue with next lecture. In the next lecture, I'm going to discuss about the three-dimensional conduction equation. Thank you. Thank you very much.